CritCast, where we like to discuss the intersection of art and entertainment. But this time, we're being topical. The date is March 12th, and just yesterday, the big news hit. The only news that hit, the only news that matters. E3 was canceled for 2020. E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, the big Christmas of the entire video game industry, canceled due to the C virus, the coronavirus, canceling basically everything else too. But that's something else entirely. To talk about this this actually kind of a big deal. I got Jill with me.
Hello.
So Jill, you told me before we started recording that you aren't that familiar with E3. What do you know about it?
Not really. It's just like we talked about before, like E3, like what it's like for all the big cheese gaming companies to get together and be like, hey, this is the kind of stuff that we're working on, and like they feature like new consoles that they're gonna be pushed out soon, or like new game trailers or whatever. Because I know you guys paid attention to that E3 conference stuff, and I just kind of read whatever you guys were like looking at.
Yeah, despite your like more mundane explanation, you're not wrong.
That's
It's
like in a nutshell.
yeah. It
Makes it
was like I
uncool.
called it like the big Christmas of gaming because it became sort of the big expo where all the publishers and some of the smaller publishers and developers they got together in a single place in like what was it, San Diego, somewhere California,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Los Angeles, in Los Angeles at least this year. And they showed off all the new things. It's usually where big console announcements. It became big because it was a centralized event. Once a year during the summer, everyone would get together. It was big enough that it would attract like beyond the video game industry attention kind of deal. You know, like kind of like how San Diego Comic Con is.
Yeah.
You understand that? Like, oh, it's about this thing, but it's big attention. Everyone's here. Everyone's looking at it.
Like it's a big deal, kind of.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the big three, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo would have big press conferences, and this is where they'd show off like, okay, is our big stuff here. We spend all sorts of money putting on a big stage show, and well, it got canceled. This is like a huge deal in like the larger scope, but it in smaller scope it actually doesn't. It seems kind of inevitable. E3 has been on the decline, so to speak, for the last couple of years because I guess people have just it hasn't become the event due to the internet. You can always see things whenever, and actually going there hasn't been as big because it used to be press only. I believe when it started in like 1996 or something.
Yeah, like this thing, I'm looking at a little timetable here. Like this started like 1994, 1995. So this thing has been running for like what, 24, 25 years?
Yeah, it
That's a
was an
long time.
it started as an industry event. It would just, the media, the journalists, and they would just go there and they would announce their stuff. It was
Yeah.
actually kind of formal and businesslike. But then it grew into more of a convention type deal. Where they would set up booths, have all during the 90s, it was during that 90s area of like booth babes and shit.
Yeah.
It was dumb. It was bad. Like that's would have been the time to go. But then it wasn't open to the public. In the last few years they opened it to the public. And that's probably what spurred them into closing it down due to the C virus. In general, just like big gatherings are canceled just all over the fucking place.
The C virus.
But yeah, like it's been on the decline for the last few years because, well, it didn't seem like an event, something worth paying attention to other than the spectacle. And I think like Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb kind of put it the best. E3 caters to two audiences, and it wasn't really good at being for either one. The first audience is just like the viewers, the public, gamers. Oh, we want to see all the new announcements, trailers, and stuff. Then go to the booths and play it, and play the demos or see something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there was also the journalists, the media, who want to actually interview the devs, interview the publishers, write articles and stuff about it. But the thing is, they aren't interested in all that spectacle and shit. They just want to have like, hey, you want to reserve a meeting room we can just interview for like 30 minutes? And E3 wasn't good at either one of They sort of just crammed both those audiences into the same spot.
Oh dear.
Which doesn't really work. And as the internet as streaming became more prevalent, it became less of an event because let's see, how do I put this? surprises weren't as prevalent, and there wasn't like any notoriety to just being there and seeing it yourself because it's going to be available. The trailers are going to be available online like in an hour later. So what's the point of going other than to say you
Okay.
went?
I see that, like, cause I imagine like some people are all like, well, I don't want to spend money for the tickets and then spend money for the flight, spend money for the hotel just to go ahead and attend this event. Why should I have to do that when I could just easily go onto like like a streaming service, like, cause what, like Twitch or
Yeah,
something
they
like
they
that.
stream it.
So what's the point?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, the big press conferences are like it's like concerts. It's a big stage show, and people get on
yeah,
stage, and there is like the spectacle of it. But I don't think that attracted as many people as they thought it would. Well, it was put on by the ESA, the Electronic shit. What are they called? Like Entertainment Software Association, which is
mm-hmm.
like the organization that puts it all together.
Okay,
In the last few years, they just haven't been very good at making it E3 relevant. It was always big. That's what attracted people. That's what got people in the door. It's a big thing. Everyone's here, but not relevant in the sense that it catered to the industry's needs. Because obviously, if none of the publishers show up, then there's no point in having it, right?
right.
So like they I think it started really with Nintendo. They pulled out of E3 they pulled their big press conference out of E3, the big stage show, and they switched to just having a Nintendo Direct at roughly the time it happens. And everybody loves those Nintendo Directs because you can just watch them anywhere and they're cool.
So the Nintendo Direct is like, I guess, kind of like, I guess it's their own trailer. Is that what it is?
It's like a pre-produced stream,
Okay.
like a press conference. I think it has advantage because you can pre-produce it. There's no such thing as gaffes or whatever. You don't have to do live things.
Right.
And they would just air it during the time that it happens. And I think they still had like a physical presence in E3, like there was booths and stuff, demos, but the big showcase event was just a streamed thing. And Sony pulled out just last year and did something similar. So two
Oh.
two of the big three were gone this year, leaving only Microsoft to
Well,
have their big announcements
so
stage play.
so why do you think that is, that all of a sudden these big honchos are backing out of E3?
I think they were kind of realizing that E3 wasn't fulfilling the need that it was supposed to have, which is, hype, marketing, getting the word out. But they were realizing like, I don't think it's worth the money to do it. Like you got to spend money on a physical presence there. Why do that when you could just pre-produce something like a month ahead of time and just stream that, right?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I guess the only reason, because I was kind of curious about E3. Like at some point, at some point, I would get stable enough in life to save this money and like go to big things like this. I think I would just want to go just to experience it.
Yeah, I think
And
that's why most people would go too.
yeah, and just looking at these numbers of people that actually went, I'm pretty sure this is true. I'm going off of a history of E3 blog here, but yeah, there's a lot of people, and the numbers just kind of went up and down. But yeah, like I would just want to go to experience it. To do it again, I don't know. I guess it really depends on how I feel about it.
A few years ago, they opened it up to the public. Used to be it was either like reserve or something. It was just journalists, and you had to you reserve ahead of time. You couldn't just walk in,
Yeah.
or you had to somehow acquire a pass. But in the last few years, you could buy one online from a legit place and get in.
Okay.
And from my understanding is that yes, there was the novelty of saying I went to E3, but from everything I've heard is like when you sit down and think about it, there isn't a whole lot distinguishing going to E3 from just like any other gaming convention. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't anything super special other than maybe the money poured into it and the presence of the key press conferences. And I keep saying big three, but it was like Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, Ubisoft, EA, and I think those were the big ones. Devolver Digital started having one, but like yeah, the big stage shows were the the key ones. But other than that, there really wasn't a reason to go. It was just like kind of like a convention. And what I heard, it actually wasn't that great because it was just
Really.
regular things there.
It just kind of surprises me because, like with conventions, I can't even say too much about conventions because anytime that I've worked in convention, this is like years ago when I was back in Hawaii. I only paid attention to one spot, and that was the artist alley, and I couldn't really leave my booth, or else I just missed out on like potential people interested in buying my work and all that stuff. But I don't know. It just kind of surprises me that with all the hype that E3 is, it's just not that cool.
It's not that cool, I would say, for attendees, for the idea that everyone shows up to show off their big news all at once. That's the deal. It's like a
Yeah.
3-day event. Hey, all the cool new trailers, all the big announcements, it's an event. And people like the whole event scheduling, right? That's why we like show up to watch TV shows on a weekly basis, like Game of Thrones or interspecies viewers. It's the event of getting
Yeah.
together and experiencing all of it together at once.
Yeah.
And I still like that. People still want that. When people are talking about like the death of E3, people still want that, but there's just like the physical presence of it. Just it's like a kind of a question mark, especially in light. Like they've been trying to rejigger it last few years, and there was like a leak last year of the ESA's like big marketing pitch for how to rebrand E3, and it was just the most disgusting thing ever.
What was it? I'm curious now.
It was going to be like influencer centric to create maximum FOMO.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, like they were gonna like influencers and what, like YouTube or some shit. And
We're
I'm
gonna have
just like,
YouTubers. We're gonna have, I forget what the name is, but like when people are waiting in line, we're gonna show them advertisements and create maximum FOMO so that it was just the most gross thing ever. And
yeah,
it
that
even had a
doesn't.
slide where it was like, if we do good things, we can build up social chits, CHIT, which is like a marketing term for like goodwill. We can
Okay.
build up goodwill so that when we fuck up in the future, we'll be forgiven.
Oh Jesus.
So yeah, that leaked and like everybody was like, "Oh, this is gross."
So if E3 is like dying as we could see, besides 2020, that's already killed. Like, what do you think would actually better E3? Like, what more could they do to kind of, I guess, bring some life back into it?
It's difficult to say because one of the things that drives E3 is of course the people who show up, the publishers, the developers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without those people, then there is no E3. It doesn't matter how much you put on it. You have to
That's fair.
attract the attractions. And those people weren't convinced that it was worth it. My solution was to kind of do away with the physical E3. Obviously, that's a big money sink. And instead do basically what Nintendo does or Sony was starting to do. Do
So
it
like
all
a
online.
online kind of deal.
You don't even have to organize it as a single thing. Like if all of the publishers and stuff just agreed to do their big yearly streams all on the same weekend in the same time slot that E3 happened, it would pretty much achieve the same effect. People would tune in on streams, they would watch it, you can release all your trailers, and I would bet that it's cheaper to pre-produce something so you don't have to get a stupid car on a stage like every year like they always do for a stupid fucking Forza. And I'm sure it'd be cheaper to get like big names to show up for like 30 minutes of recording rather than on stage. And also I bet like you could build, I don't know, some kind of social media integration or whatever so you can get better statistics, better numbers of like who's looking at it, who's talking about it kind of deal.
So then there would just be no physical location. Like,
Yeah.
just do away with that. Like,
No
it's
physical
done though.
location, and I think we would have to reduce. I think we would either have to reduce the prevalence of like demos and stuff because I'm not convinced that the demos and stuff that were present at E3 were worth it. Or you could just release those demos on like Steam. It's like at the end of this stream you can get the demo for Neo 2 or whatever.
I
And
never personally liked demos, which is probably I never liked them because I'm waiting for this game and a demo comes out. I'm like, oh, cool shit, right? And I just get into it and I get real into it, and then the demo's over, and I'm like, fuck. Now I'm like I'm having to wait, even longer, or at least it feels like that, for my game to come out. Like
yeah.
Resident Evil 3, the demo, I don't know when it's supposed to come out. I think it did already. I'm not sure, and I'm like, I ain't touching that shit. because
Yeah.
I'm already waiting for it. It's less than a month away.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that with the size of big name games, I'm not sure if this applies to smaller name games, but for big name games, building a good demo kind of takes away from the development of the actual game because you can't just slice out a part of your game that already exists
Yeah,
and call that a
exactly.
demo. You have to kind of build the demo itself.
And I'm like, no, put that effort into the fucking game so I can just go ahead and play it, man. I'd rather
Yes,
wait for like, and I've always talked about this, like, especially when it comes to like, crunch time and all that stuff for games. Take that time that you're making this demo, right, and put that shit into the game because I'd rather have the best quality that you can put out rather than something that you guys are pushing out in the last minute.
or some kind of like stage build so they can do their live gameplay demonstration.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fine
Yeah, because
too.
that's another different build. It's got to run on whatever they're
Yeah.
putting on stage and show whatever you need to. And although it like sucks for gamers, I think one person pointed out, it's like it. Yes, the big companies probably won't miss this all that much. There's actually another idea behind that, which I'll talk about soon. But there were smaller developers there too, and they would go there and show off it's their time to like show off the things where everyone is going to be.
Right.
Again, going back to the roots of E3, this is an industry event. It's a networking event. People are just gathered in one place. You can get together for business lunch. You can make connections. You can talk and network. Like that's one of the values of these big meetings and why a lot of the ones that are being closed because of the C virus fight, it's very concerning for businesses. It's like, oh shit,
Oh
this
yeah,
was
that's understandable.
yeah, not just for games, but like everything.
Yeah.
Anything that relies on just talking to the right people at the right time, pitch your ideas or get phone numbers or something.
Right.
And Jeff Gerstmann, again from Giant Bomb, pointed out, it's like he liked E3 because, again, it guaranteed that everyone was just there and he could interview them all at one place over a weekend. He would stay up like 3 days and I can just interview all of them. I wouldn't have to ask them to come here or schedule something else. They were all
Right.
right there.
Mhm.
And like I can see why that's concerning. These big networking events mean a lot to other people more than just the viewers. And I think one thing again, Kurtzman pointed out is as E3 was slowly dying, people were pulling out. I theorized that E3 had maybe 5 years left in it before it just pottered out, right?
Yeah.
But I think the C virus was basically the unexpected straw that broke the camel's back, and it's like, oh shit, we just have to close this. It's no one's fault. We just have to do this. But all the big name publishers are like, okay, we can. This might work to our advantage because I bet there's like some accountants somewhere that say like E3 is a big money sink and we're not getting the return that we think we're getting. Marketing shit. Put the X amount of dollars in and then get X number of eyeballs on there so that generates money and engagement,
Yeah, because
right?
then this is a good opportunity, like for the other big cheese guys to be like, hey, well, you know what, we have been noticing there's a money sink. Why don't we try our own streaming announcements now? And if it works, there's no
Yeah,
reason to go to E3.
exactly.
So
Like,
I think this is a big hit here.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like those bean counters, they can estimate and stuff, but they didn't have like actual concrete data that says if we didn't go to E3, our bottom line would improve. But now that situation has kind of been forced, and now they'll actually see it happen. And if at the end of the year they look at their sheets and say like, you know what, we didn't spend the money on E3 and we got the same amount of returns. Well, that sort of cinches it like dead.
Yeah, I think that we'll find out probably what, like, after, I guess after everything's over this year, we'll probably find out if E3 is still going to be standing or not.
I think we'll have to wait until next year because there's two
Right.
outcomes. One is that all the publishers realize that yes, it is indeed cheaper to not go to E3 and not do any announcements or not go to E3 and do their own thing because I'm sure Nintendo has their thing already set up. Like their Nintendo Direct's probably done at this point, and they could just need to air it, right? The other
Yeah.
possibility is that the ESA takes this opportunity to be like, okay, we don't need to do it this year. Our hand has been forced, so let's take that time and actually figure out how to make E3 great again, right?
Yeah.
Like they come back again next year and be like, "Hey guys, sorry we missed it last year. I hope everyone's still alive. E3 is back and better than ever." Kind of deal. Or it comes back and it's not as good and it's just pathetic. At which point that's just cringe. I hope we get some kind of alternative, like a big streaming event where everybody just gets together and put their things together. Because I still like that. Everyone gathering around and be like, "All right, everyone, let's watch all these trailers together." That's what
Yeah,
happens with like the Jeff Keighley thing, the Jeff Keighley Game Awards.
I'm not familiar with that.
So Jeff Keighley, sort of like a video game presenter dude, he used to do a lot of E3 stuff, but then he broke away after the ESA fucked up, and they fucked up hard a bunch of times. They doxed. I think last year or the year before, they doxed everyone who showed up to E3.
What do
They
you
leaked.
mean?
The ESA is, the organization that puts it all together.
Okay.
They gather all the information of all the participants, of all the people who show up, because they're the organizers. Got to keep track of everyone. But their website had shitty security, and the personal information of literally everyone who showed up to E3 was available.
Get out. Oh my god.
Yeah, it
That's the
wasn't great.
worst.
The ESA isn't great, despite being the Entertainment Software Association. They have shitty like software standards. So Jeff Keighley broke away after. Well, he broke away before that, but he broke away as like, okay, this is like either too corporate or too dumb or falling out with someone. And he went on to do his own thing, which is the Game Awards, which happens at a different time. And it basically serves almost the same purpose. Whole bunch of trailers, some awards, done.
Wow.
And this is not even counting the fact that there's other conventions like PAX, Penny Arcade Expo, which happens in multiple places around the United States, and people showcase stuff there all the time. And that's more gamer centric and less industry centric. So yeah, like it was just like, why do we need E3 other than the notoriety of everyone getting together and watching it together? Like, why do we need it? And it sucks because I don't know. I still like the tradition of looking forward to E3.
Oh yeah, every time, every year, it's let's see what E3 has in store. I'm like, okay, well, let me
Yeah.
know. So I'm
I'm
no
one of
more
those
near
people.
it.
Yeah, I'm still one of those people who like makes fun of it and like, oh, who they got some shitty YouTuber to get up on stage and say some pre-scripted shit. Oh, this is some great fake footage, like whatever. I can still get hype, but also make fun of it. But I'll miss making fun of it, like watching those stupid like stage shows. Like anytime the Ubisoft one comes along, I'm just like, why is there like a 10-minute dance party? Fucking shut up and show me the trailers.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what everyone wants. Everyone just wants like trailer after trailer after trailer, and sometimes they don't deliver because people get up on stage and do their stupid talking bullshit, or like do their company line, or like in EA's cases they go up and be like, "We heard you. We've heard the audience, and we are taking them into account." Like after last year's Star Wars Battlefront debacle, and everybody hated it. And they had to put up a developer's like, "We've heard you, we're making our changes," and then they get applause for doing the bare minimum, and nobody believes them except the idiots in the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just looking at this too, I see that there was just like I feel like like E3 is failing because guys are pulling out, but I feel like there's like these other kind of bits that unfortunately probably contributed to the whole fire of E3. Like,
Oh,
well, let's see. I don't know. It just seems like some gaming companies were kind of treated like garbage. Let's see.
how so?
Gosh, and like I'm just trying to scroll through this real quick. Let's see. The IDSA, does that sound familiar to you?
IDSA?
Yeah.
No.
Held a meeting. It just seems like some people were I guess some higher up people for the show was just like you guys make toys, we don't really consider you to be consumer electronics, but you're welcome to exhibit. And there's like some kind of like faulty like setups where like I guess like one year it was raining and it just totally leaked onto like one of the vendors like products like their Sega Genesis and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
It
Yeah.
kind of sounds like it's again the ESA not doing their job in creating a good venue.
Yeah, and it just seems like I guess just a general lack of respect. I guess like prep, making sure that all the fixtures were good. And I'm just like, oh wow, that would affect me as well. Like, I wouldn't want to go if I kept hearing like, I guess, like the tables or whatnot that I paid for, is, like there's leaking, or, there could be damage to my products, or, like, or higher ups don't give a shit about that. I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
be there.
And this was all kind of before the C virus hit. It was
Yeah,
there
this
just
is
wasn't
all
a whole lot
for. Yeah.
going for it. Like, okay, so in this article, the Kotaku article from Jason Schreier,
Oh, fun.
who I believe is like the closest thing that the gaming industry has to like a true journalist, a true investigative reporter. He's really good,
Hmm.
but he writes good stuff, and it's like it's been a bad year for the ESA. Even before the C virus hit, E3 was kind of on the downslope because of the digital era, kind of making it irrelevant, but also leaked personal information. Jeff Keighley left. The creative director for I believe it's a company called I Am 8-Bit, which is sort of like another organizational company.
Hmm.
They pulled out of the show for some reason. There's no reasons given. Pulled out of the show, and that company was supposed to revitalize E3. And top guy leaving is like, nah, don't want to do this.
When was that? Was that like around 2000s or so?
I Am 8-Bit pulled out like last week.
Whew, that sucks.
But yeah, it's just like a lot of people were leaving. Just a lot of things weren't going well for E3, and that's all after everybody already knows that E3 was kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, like, and there's also, I'm looking at this other one too. Like, apparently there's like kind of like a scandal around like 2006. Like, was it like after party scandals? And it's just, it is cringy because sexual assault and underage drinking and all that. I'm like, man, like, why?
Yeah, it's because it was a big, get together event, and it's sort of in the same like 90s era where it's
Yeah.
yeah, it was industry only and it was networking. It was like, hey everybody, let's go to a fucking bar with like strippers and shit.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay,
I
man.
know it's bad, but that would have been the era to actually go to E3 when everything was when it was a Wild West show. And it was
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
crazy. Not like the more corporate thing we have now, but like like when everybody was just doing shit.
Yeah, exactly.
When it wasn't as clean. But yeah, I'm betting that like this is sort of like the unforced early death of E3. And
Probably
I was
shaved off a year or two, or just the rest of them.
shaved off a few years off of
Yeah.
eventual downturn. It just like the C virus just pulled the plug. It's like I'm not waiting. Bye. Because this presents way too many opportunities for the presenters to realize, hey, maybe we don't need E3.
Yeah, exactly.
And without
That's just
presenters, there's no E3.
like, we still, I still want to present my trailers. Oh, let's make our own shit. Let's see what happens.
E3 was supposed to happen like in June.
Because they could easily make use of Twitch. Like, don't these companies have like at least like what, Twitch accounts on there?
Yeah, that's how they did the streaming halves of like their press conferences. Like the press conference had live, but they would also stream them, and Twitch was usually one of them. Hell, you could usually get it in multiple venues. Like I think the Nintendo Direct was like on Twitch and YouTube and on their site. So yeah, it's like I think this is it. We live to see the death of E3.
God, I think maybe the probably the most thing that I guess the thing that would probably bum out some people is like if they really don't have this convention thing anymore. Everyone just does their own thing, and they do their own streaming service to push out their trailers or whatnot. What about the networking? Because people gather for that networking, and all the small people.
Yeah, that sucks. It sucks
That's
hard
what
for
sucks.
those people the most.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, there has to be, and like in relative to everything else going on, everyone is going through this. All big gatherings are being canceled. Hell, like just before we started recording, I was like, looks like Disney has postponed the release of fucking Mulan.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's been taken off their official release schedule.
Oh,
and I was of the opinion that Disney was basically going to be the only, like a lot of movies are being like postponed because obviously theaters are just big gathering places. Everyone sits together in a dark room and coughs all over each other. But like,
sorry, it's not funny, but it's funny.
I know. But like, I was under the impression that like Disney was going to be the only one standing after, because they were, big corporate giant juggernaut. They're a fucking cyberpunk dystopian corporation. Like they can tank it, or they can either tank it or they'll just be even more cynical is like, oh, we'll wait for literally every other movie to pull out so that we're the only movie in theaters while everyone has the C virus.
You know that things are going to hell, right? When Disney, of
Yeah,
all people, decide to be like, "Hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and put this on hold." And that's like, "Oh
yeah, and
shit,
of course
this is
they're not
bad."
doing, like if you want a read of the actual like sociocultural climate, you pay attention to what corporations do. It's sad, but that is like corporations are the only ones who matter. When they say and do something, that's when it matters.
That's when you kind of have to that's a heads up.
Yeah, let's see. Disney has stepped into a fray to announce that it's postponing the release of 3 films they had set to release between now and the end of April: Mulan,
Oh,
Antlers, and the New Mutants. Although New Mutants was always delayed for
oh
whatever
god.
reason.
Okay.
Black Widow is still coming out on May 1st.
I have things to say about Black Widow, but that could be for a different day.
Yeah, and like I think it's also they also and this is nuts. I think I saw another one. Did they close Disneyland California?
What?
Disneyland
Why?
Because the coronavirus. Disneyland closes
Oh,
because of the coronavirus outbreak.
I thought you meant like close it for real, for real. Like
No,
it's
but
not
like
opening
people were
anymore.
like a day or two ago, people were making fun of like everyone is closing their doors, but Disney's over here like, hey, everyone still show up to Disney. Spend your money here before getting sick.
Cough it up, boys.
But now they're like, but now it's like, oh shit, Disney is closing shit. Like that's their entire revenue model. Everybody show up to our shit.
You know it's a piss off, right? Now that I know that at least one Disneyland location is closed or closing, I don't know, but Disney is closing and my goddamn college is still open.
It's closing Disneyland and California Adventure, so it's in
Ah,
the Anaheim, California. I think it's
Jesus.
because the
I've
West
been
Coast has been
there.
hit harder.
Yeah.
But I think once we start getting reports of shit over here in the East Coast that isn't New York City, then
Yeah.
we'll start seeing that.
God.
Like that's I can't I hate living in interesting times now because it's too interesting at this point.
Yeah,
I
there's
want
a
to live in
level of
boring. I want to live in boring times for like a month.
just at least for one goddamn month, and it was sad. It sucked because with all this conventions, I really want to get back into it, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna get into this convention shit. I'm gonna go ahead and plan this out and get my stuff going, and then the coronavirus comes along and
Yeah,
goes,
like
hey, what's up? I'm gonna slap your calendar out of your hand.
everyone has been like South by Southwest, GDC, the Google one, the Google I/O, I believe. Everything where people have been trying to like speak up about this. This hurts the small people the most because they were
Yeah.
planning big on this. They had like reserved and bought things ahead of time. Where they're starting like funds. It's like shit. Like
Yeah.
if you spent too much money on this and you're just a tiny vendor, like here's a fund to help you. It's good at least just get
Yeah.
your money back
Because
because
I think
you're not a big company. You can't just absorb it.
yeah, you can't just take that loss. Like, can you imagine like flights? You
Yeah,
can't refund that shit.
yeah, it
And then like
sucks.
getting your get your deposits down for your hotels or making all these arrangements, and all of a sudden the E3 is like, you know what, cut it, boys, and you're the one that's missing out.
Yeah, and especially since a lot of these organizations are like I assume like up until now we're just like really waiting, like maybe, and now it's getting to the point like oh shit. Like I think basically every major sporting league in the United States is like we're taking a month off.
No, basketball is not at all for this year.
I thought I
As
saw
far as
like
I know.
a lot of them are like either like no events or whatever.
I know, and the NHL is not. I don't know about football.
But
Maybe.
like this is kind of turning into like a C virus episode, but
It's
it
been bleeding.
really gets to the idea that canceling these big events isn't just like a terrible thing for the viewers. It's also
It's so
it
bad
means
for the
something to the
small
people
people.
who show up to them.
Yeah. So I feel really bad. Like my heart goes out to those small people that were
Yeah, me
planning
too.
to try and make some kind of change, get some networking done at E3, because that's
Or
the only
show off their
reason
game.
that's the only
Everyone's
reason
there.
I'd want
All
to
the big
be there.
all the big outlets are there, and they're just, all of the big, game journalists, game reporting sites are there to just see everything, not just see the big things.
Exactly.
They're always talking about how like we don't sleep for like 3 days because we got to talk to everyone and then write all night. And
Exactly.
who knows? You could have caught like the little guy. It's like, hey, we saw this cool little thing, and we're gonna write an article on it.
Mm-hmm.
Bam! You probably wouldn't have gotten that otherwise. Yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
I hope E3 gets some kind of replacement, even if it's just a streaming thing, which unfortunately would cut out the little guy sort of. What I hope the ideal replacement is some kind. I don't want to say a physical thing. What I hope is that the other conventions, mostly PAX, various penny arcade expos that happen around the United States, pick up the slack. The smaller guys can go there and show it off to people, when they care, because it's more gamer centric, and leaving the big guys, and they all agree to just do their big streaming events all on the same weekend and not in the same fucking time slot. Just get out of each other's way, because you're going to be splitting audiences at that point, and nobody wants that. Just like, okay, Saturday, 8 p.m., an hour, and then an hour, and then an hour, done. And everybody shows up,
Mm-hmm.
And everyone shows up on Twitch, or you get up some hashtags so you can get like engagement numbers and shit, and just like do that, because I still want to have the big group experience. Everyone likes that.
Right. Like I think that might not be like too bad of an idea. Like you said, big guys do their own thing. Little guys, like PAX or like other conventions, just kind
They
of take
spread
the
out to
small
the
guys.
other places, yeah.
Because then that way, because I feel like while it might be a good idea with the whole networking thing, and it's awesome, but people go there because they're more familiar with the big names rather than the small names. So if the small names can get a better chance elsewhere, where people frequently gather and it's not like they're dying or anything, maybe it might be better for them over there too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hope, and then one more group is like the journalists, the people who report, the media.
Oh yeah.
Like, I hope we can something is figured out for them, because again, one of the benefits of E3 is everyone's there, so you can just interview everyone. It was big enough to attract all the big names, and you can get like a half hour to talk to them, rather than having to call them up or ask them to come to your place or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 3 different things we have to take care of. The first 2 doable, the third one not so much. But yeah, and God, I want to live in boring times for like 2 weeks. I don't want to have to wake up and find out there's a new disease, or something's on fire, or something's canceled, or Trump said something fucking stupid and ruined another country, or another country's threatening us. Like, God, I just want to like wake up and be like, oh, I guess like the Packers won or whatever. Like, that's the big news.
Yeah, right. Like, I just want to wake up one day and be checking my news and absolutely nothing is happening. And
I don't want to. I don't want to be filled with utter despair or blinding rage. Whatever. But yeah, this will be the topical episode. Man, I guess check back on this whenever we figure out if E3's dead or not, for real.
Yeah, we're probably going to end up coming back to this conversation.
Yeah, but we'll have to save that for another time. Well, pour 1 out for E3, and pour 2 out for all those poor souls who lose out on the opportunities presented at E3.
Pouring it out.
Yeah, and I hope you all have a good night. Jill, thank you for joining me on this episode of the CritCast.
Heck yeah.
And I wish you all a good night. Be safe out there. Wash your damn hands. Get vaccinated. Self-quarantine yourself. Cover your damn mouth. Do all the things you fuckers should have been doing before all this happened. All right? God damn it. All right. Good night, y'all.